everyone. We are here to give you some video show notes from our episode on back to school. And we talked a lot. We packed quite a bit into that episode. So we want to give you some of the highlights, share a couple of our practical tips, as well as ideas about how we handle the transition emotionally as well, because kids have a lot of feelings, but so do moms and dads.
Yeah.
So we started off with some of the practical things you can do to ease your way out of those lazy summer months and get ready for the routine that comes back with the start of the school year.
Yeah.
One of the first things we talked about was scooting bedtime back. And you can even start this a week or two or even more in advance if you just go in small increments and slowly get kids on this earlier bedtime so it's not such a rude awakening when the school starts. And one of the things I like about that is it also then organically has them waking up a little bit sooner. So also setting that alarm the night before school starts and then having to get up at 6 a.m. and be bleary-eyed at the breakfast table isn't such an issue because you've kind of been getting your body ready for the transition slowly, and it's not this abrupt change to all your circadian rhythms and everything. So we talked a bit about that.
Yeah, we also talked about just really starting to shift how many activities are going on and schedule stuff is happening in the lead up to back to school, but especially right after school starts. First week or two after school is just not the time to be running around with different activities, different parties, going to that big thing that's going to have them up late. Kids are toast after the first week of school. They're exhausted, and that's even if you've done the early bedtime.
For sure.
They're really, they've gone from a lot of freedom and a lot of just kind of laziness into some structure, and their brains are working hard again. So really just giving some space for that and just reducing and minimizing what you have to do so that really all they have to do is now go to school, come home, do their homework, and they can still have a little bit of that freedom that they're still experiencing from the summer.
Yeah, and what's so nice about that, and we talk all the time about being proactive, is that's really preventative so you don't end up with a bunch of meltdowns, because tired people, you've probably heard the little acronym HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Those are 4 real triggers for meltdowns. And so especially if you have younger children, you want to be proactive and not have everyone just fading out because they're tired and grumpy. Recognizing that going from a pretty free day to like 7 hours of structure is going to make them tired during that stretch of the day. So they're going to need to be able to come home and decompress and not fill their evenings and their weekends with a lot of other stuff. So super smart idea. If you have the flexibility and the capability to clear your plate for those first couple of weeks after school starts, really smart. And something else I mentioned was talking positively about some of the changes that are coming, but Kira had this amazing practical tip for the first morning, especially if you have a younger one, or particularly if you're dealing with that very first kindergarten drop-off. This was such a great way to kind of approach how to handle this that she actually wished she'd known, right? Because you didn't do it this way.
I most certainly did not do it this way. So I think especially if that's that first drop-off for kindergarten, preschool, but like really that first foray into that, here you go, into your schooling, parents tend to want to get there early. They want to make sure they're on time. They want to make sure they can like ease their child in. And what our experience was that was the worst idea imaginable, because I think the kids are stressed and they're nervous, but they're really aware that we're stressed and nervous and we're feeling all these big feelings when your baby goes off to school, for the first time. Yeah, and they can really feel that. And so if you get there early and you have to wait around and they're with all these other parents who are also experiencing all these feelings, now they're picking up on all this tension. And so what we saw was there was, all the kids were lined up, everybody was fine, and then it was like slowly the tension was building, and then one kid went, and then another kid went, and then another, and all of a sudden everyone's crying. And I remembered thinking, why didn't we just get here 5 minutes before, show up, plunk them in the line, have an amazing day, we love you so much, we'll be here to pick you up, good luck, and just keep it. So it's not ripping off the Band-Aid, because it's not like just dropping them off and good luck to you, but not allowing that tension to build where our feelings actually start to really impact them, I think.
Right, because like I said just a moment ago, even if you've been having positive conversations about what's happening, that escalation in the moment can feel yucky. So it kind of prevents that if you just keep the goodbye brief. It doesn't mean not having one at all or just shoving them out the car door, like you said, but just keeping it brief.
Yeah.
That was really smart.
Yeah. We also talked about having some kind of something that the kids need to do over the summer and being loose with that. You know, if you're traveling, we don't want them doing workbooks while you're traveling, but whether it's 30 minutes of reading every day, or my kids do a little workbook, and we're going to talk about those books because you can have the resources. We'll put them in the notes too. They do a little book called a Summer Bridge book that kind of reviews the curriculum from last year and takes them into the curriculum for next year. It's just like 10 minutes a day. But just having a little something so that, A, their brains continue to grow and develop and maintain what they've learned and be ready and primed for new learning, but also so that they continue to have some kind of rhythm and routine that at least somewhat emulates what happens at school, so that it's not a shock to the system, that they're used to kind of getting up and having to do a little something. Now, of course, it is a much longer day of doing, but it hasn't been like black and white, all or nothing.
Where it was a total free-for-all in the summer. And the other nice thing is that's a great life, it's a sample of life, because life doesn't totally stop in the summer. I think pacing can look a little bit different even for adults, and a lot of people travel or go on vacation, but it's not like we do nothing. And so that's a really great help to them to see that we don't just put life on pause just because it's June, July, or August or what have you.
Exactly.
So it's really good, and it keeps their skills fresh. So double bonus.
And so my book was called the Summer Bridge book. That's the book that we use, and that's for the school age child over the summer. Yours was more about school readiness, right?
Yes. So I mentioned a book that gets kids kind of ready for kindergarten, but literally starting when they're babies. And I went through this with both of my kids. It's great. There's an activity for literally every day, and they're all able to be done with just household items and super easy. And of course, it doesn't mean you have to do it every day, but there's something available every day and right from infancy. And that book is called Slow and Steady, Get Me Ready.
And we'll have that in the notes. Perfect. Okay, let's talk about the emotional side of sending kids back to school and some of the feelings that they might have. So I just talked about those 3 N's, reminded parents, this is a great time to allow those feelings to be there and to not be shocked or surprised by them. Kids are experiencing all kinds of things, whether they're worried, are they going to be able to keep up academically? Are they nervous about friendships maybe that over the summer may have changed? Are they worried about being in the same class as someone they don't like? Are they worried about not being in class with their best friend? Are they worried about teacher placement? I mean, there's so many factors for them that are unknown. So expect those big feelings and remember to help them name them if they're younger, normalize them. It's totally normal. Of course you're feeling that way. Mom felt that way every day on the first day of school. And then nurture those feelings, like take the time to help them process it, and even do some prep for, well, what are you going to do if you feel like you don't like your teacher? How are you going to handle it if you're not in the same class with your best friend? Let's talk about that now over the summer toward the end to just get ourselves prepared.
Yeah. Another thing that can be really nice is to make sure that your conversations around the things that might be scary are positive. Mm-hmm. So one example is sometimes meeting new people can feel kind of big, and also meeting new adults. If they are in a classroom where there's maybe a teacher and an aide, or there's multiple people, that's like a lot of new extra people, or they're recess monitors or what have you. And so framing those in a positive way. So instead of something that's like, oh, that's going to be a lot of people, talking about, wow, you get to meet all kinds of new people. You get the opportunity to make new friends. I'm excited to see who your teacher's going to be. Just keeping the tone positive and light, I think, helps with what we're teaching. And that is, we're thinking about raising adults, right? And one of the important things in life is perspective. And you teach perspective. How can I look at what's positive here? How can I find that silver lining? And so when we speak in a positive way, that helps. And while it's not possible for everyone to do this, I think it can also help navigate some of the big feelings and some of the unknowns if you have an opportunity to see the place your child will be, whether that's a preschool or even if you can just visit the playground. If you are able to get in the classroom, I really recommend that. Sometimes just removing the shroud of mystery from something can help with those feelings of anxiety or nervousness. It's like, oh, I've at least seen it before. I know what to expect from the environment. Mm-hmm. And that can be really helpful too.
Yeah. And then Deana talked a little bit, I'm going to let her share about the change that happens with how you connect with your children's feelings as they get older, and how you help them process those feelings when they might not want to process those feelings
yes.
with you as they move into tweens and teens.
Yeah, there is a shift there for sure. So what I've noticed is we're big advocates of questioning and asking, how do you feel? How did that make you feel? How would we do it differently? And what I notice is as children move, especially into the middle school years, is kind of when it starts to happen, but then it continues for sure, is they may not be as interested in fielding 20 questions about their feelings, or they might not even feel like talking about their feelings and sharing that. So the narrative has to shift slightly. And there's a couple ways you can do that. One is you still ask a question, but it's more open-ended. Like, would you like to talk about how you're feeling about the upcoming school year? And that gives them the option to say yes, and then they can, or they can say no, thank you. Another option is you find a vehicle to have a conversation about the upcoming school year, and then it might open the door for the conversation about feelings. So one thing I mentioned in our family, our vehicle is often class selection. So we talk about what courses they're going to pick. Are we going to do honors? Are we going to take an AP class? But it might bring up the feelings about, oh, that's a heavier course load, or that's a harder class, and that reminds them that they're feeling a little nervous about workload, or are they going to be able to keep up and keep that good GPA? So if you find something you can talk about that might seem a little bit external, what classes are you picking? What are you most looking forward to? Have you decided what sports you're going to do? You may find that the door cracks open for them to start talking about those bigger feelings, or even the apprehension that's coming up for them as the school year looms.
So we hope you enjoyed these video show notes. Be sure to check out our back to school episode, and best wishes to all of our viewers and listeners for a happy, healthy, safe back to school.